Hello, this is Harry. In this video, let's watch a crime suspense film, Bluebeard, that keeps reversing. Sung-hoon was a doctor. After the hospital he ran went bankrupt. His wife took away his 10-year-old son and divorced him. Sung-hoon could only leave Gangnam district where the rich gathered. He found a job in a small hospital in the suburbs of Gangbuk. He rented an apartment above a butcher shop. The landlord ran a butcher shop business. At noon this day, the landlord's wife brought her father-in-law to the hospital for an endoscopy. Although it was off work time, Sung-hoon was not easy to refuse to help. So Sung-hoon worked overtime to check the old man. Before endoscopy, the patient was injected with sitosterol to help with anesthesia. The old man said dazedly after falling asleep, arms and legs at Hanam Bridge, torso at Dongho Bridge. The head is still in the fridge. Sung-hoon was frightened. The rest day of the next day was Sung-hoon's day to visit his son. He got up early and when he went past the butcher shop, he remembered the man's words. He unconsciously stopped to observe the store. After looking around, he found a black plastic bag on the table contained a round thing. He took a closer look. It seemed to have some hair exposed outside. At this time the landlord came out and interrupted his thinking. In the evening, Sung-hoon sent his son back to his ex-wife's place. He bought a few cans of beers and returned to his residence. He didn't know that the landlord was already waiting for him, and sent him some beef. After chatting, Sung-hoon saw that the landlord did not intend to leave. He had no choice but to let the landlord in for a drink. During the conversation, Sung-hoon learned that the landlord was also divorced. The former wife suddenly ran away when his son was 6 years old. Since then, he lost their news. Then the landlord asked Sung-hoon what he was looking at in his butcher shop. Sung-hoon was about to think about what to do. The landlord's wife called and Sung-hoon sent the landlord away. The next day, his ex-wife came to find her son. The two had an argument in the room, disturbing the tenant downstairs. The landlord came up to inquire about the situation and saw a pair of high heels at the door. Sung-hoon explained that he had broken the bathroom mirror. Then he stood at the window and watched his ex-wife go away. The landlord sent him a mirror, and saw that the high heels at the door were gone. The landlord went into the room and helped install the mirror. At this time the butcher shop was closed. The landlord invited Sung-hoon to the store for a drink. Sung-hoon had to go downstairs with him. After drinking 3 rounds, they started to talk. Two divorced men exchanged thoughts. After a while, Sung-hoon fell drunk on the table. Not for so long, Sung-hoon saw the cold storage door open in the store. He walked in and saw the black bag. After opening, there was really a woman's head inside. Fortunately, it was just a nightmare. Recently, the hospital was full of elderly people waiting for a vaccine after the landlord's father left. The old ladies in the waiting area talked about the landlord's family. They said that the old man's wife disappeared for no reason. Now his son's first wife had also disappeared suddenly. This family was really strange. While Sung-hoon was listening, there were 2 medical records of the same workers from the hospital. The reason was that a corpse case occurred in the nearby newly built land not long ago. The DNA identified the victim as a Southeast Asian woman. This news made Sung-hoon even more panicked. The landlord's missing ex-wife was a Filipino. He suspected that the landlord might have killed his ex-wife. Sung-hoon went home and fell asleep. When he got up to get water in the refrigerator, he saw a black plastic bag next to the refrigerator. He remembered the head he saw in the landlord's cold storage last night. He guessed that he drank too much and accidentally brought it back. Sung-hoon was too scared to open the bag and sat still until dawn. After that, he did not dare to return home and slept in the hospital at night. But he always kept dreaming. That night he dreamed that the landlord's family were dismembering a body. After waking up, he went to the convenience store to buy something. However, when he returned to the hospital, he ran into the nurse Mi-yeon stealing propofol. Mi-yeon cried and begged Sung-hoon not to tell the director. This was the first time she stole medicine. Sung-hoon saw Mi-yeon carrying a brand name bag all day long. He knew this was not the first time. Mi-yeon was speechless when she heard that. But Sung-hoon didn't embarrass her. Mi-yeon went to work as usual the next day. Sung-hoon bought the drug in secret like this. When going home from work at night, Sung-hoon saw a 3-day notice posted on the door of the butcher shop, and blood dripped from the truck in front of the door. Curiosity drove him to the processing room behind the shop. He saw the landlord was working hard to grind meat. Sung-hoon looked around. He saw a few strokes of yellow hair exposed in a black plastic bag. He remembered that the landlord's wife dyed yellow hair. So he panicked and ran away. Unexpectedly, the landlord who was chased out immediately stopped him. Sung-hoon pretended to be calm. After the conversation, the landlord said that his wife had gone back to her natal house. There was no one working, so he just closed the door and rested. Sung-hoon was terrified. He thought the landlord must have killed his wife. He hurried back to the house and was too frightened to hug himself to ease his mind. Immediately, the police in the Gangnam district came to ask him something. Only then did he know that his ex-wife was missing. He told the police truthfully that his ex-wife had been here 4 days ago. He hadn't contacted her since she left around 9 p.m. Sung-hoon was worried about his ex-wife's safety. He let the police tell him immediately if they had news. As soon as the police left, Mi-yeon appeared to ask why he called the police. "Wanna send me to jail?" It turned out that the police went to the hospital to find Sung-hoon. Mi-eun thought Sung-hoon told him about her stealing medicine. Mi-eun apologized for the misunderstanding and left. Sung-hoon came to the window and watched Mi-eun leave, but he saw the landlord come out to follow Mi-eun. He hurriedly chased Mi-eun out for fear of misfortune. He only heard Mi-eun scream when he got to the tunnel gate. He stepped up to catch up. Unexpectedly, he was stunned to the ground as soon as he exited the tunnel. Sung-hoon woke up and found himself lying on the bed at home. The pain in the face told him that last night was definitely not a dream. At this time, a man calling himself Officer Joe said that he saved Sung-hoon. Then Officer Joe said that he was responsible for the serial murders in this area 15 years ago. But the case had not been solved. The murderer seemed to have started committing crimes again recently. Although he had retired now, he still did not give up the investigation. He also had doubts about the father and son in the butcher shop. But he couldn't find any evidence. Sung-hoon let Officer Joe look at the head in the refrigerator. He said that he accidentally brought it back from the butcher shop after he was drunk. With this evidence, Joe could report and arrest them. Officer Joe thought that only one head was insufficient. What if the murderers denied it or said it was Sung-hoon who was the murderer? He told Sung-hoon not to startle. He should patiently observe and collect evidence before making any plans. Sung-hoon came to the hospital the next day and learned that Mi-eun didn't go to work. No one was at her home and her phone was turned off. It was supposed that Mi-eun's disappearance was related to the landlord's father and son. Then Sung-hoon received a call from his son. His son and grandma quarreled and he wanted to find Sung-hoon. Knowing that his son was almost at the butcher shop, he yelled at his son to leave soon. There were no taxis because of its remote location. Sung-hoon told his son to go to the hospital to find him by bus. However, an hour later, he still did not see his son. He called, but he didn't expect the landlord to answer the call. The landlord said he was with Sung-hoon's son. Sung-hoon rushed back without waiting for the landlord to finish. The door of the landlord's shop was locked, but the light in his room upstairs turned on. So he took out a scalpel and rushed into the house. After a while, Sung-hoon ran out with blood in his hands. The eye of a tattooed man was stabbed. Sung-hoon ran through the tunnel in a panic, but he was knocked down by a car. He woke up and found that he was in Officer Joe's office. Sung-hoon was worried about his son's safety. Fortunately, Officer Joe confirmed that the child was safe with his grandma. Sung-hoon was relieved now. At this moment, Officer Joe took out the newspaper for him to read. The police found the broken body in the woods. Because someone reported that he saw a man dispute the body of his ex-wife, so now Sung-hoon became the biggest suspect. Sung-hoon thought it must be the landlord and his son. He said he was going to the landlord's storage to find evidence. Officer Joe hurriedly stopped and said it was illegal to break into a private house. It's better for him to call the police. When Officer Joe was talking on the phone, Sung-hoon suddenly saw that the letters on the desk were signed by Nam In-soo. He realized that the person in front of him was not the real Officer Joe and thought that this person was in the same group as the landlord's family. So he took advantage when the man was on the phone to make a sneak attack. Then Sung-hoon squatted near the landlord's shop until 2 o'clock at night. When no one was around, he smashed the glass door to find evidence in the storage. Unexpectedly, he found the black plastic bag with the head. The landlord walked in and the two scuffled together. When the landlord was squeezing Sung-hoon's neck, the police arrived in time. Sung-hoon told the police during the interrogation, the landlord and his son were the murderers of the serial murder 15 years ago. A woman's head was packed in a black plastic bag, and there was one in the refrigerator in his room. He drank too much that day and took the head back. That was why he got involved in this case. But the plastic bag in the storage was just a bull's head. The case had gradually become clear. It turned out that Sung-hoon was affected by schizophrenia and fantasized the bull's head into a human head. The police found 2 bloody knives under the water drain in his residence. It was the blood of his ex-wife. The landlord testified that after Sung-hoon had a drink at his place that night, 2 knives were missing in the butcher shop. The landlord didn't kidnap Sung-hoon's son. He happened to meet him at the bus stop that day and brought him along. Mi-eun didn't go missing, and she accused Sung-hoon of drug addiction. At noon that day, she brought food for Sung-hoon to his office. She saw Sung-hoon fall asleep just after the injection of propofol. She said that Sung-hoon said he killed someone and put the head in the refrigerator. Mi-eun had seen patients often after injection of propofol, they can say something in their heart. So she thought what Sung-hoon said was true. After the police came to the hospital to find Sung-hoon, she went to ask Sung-hoon what happened. Knowing that Sung-hoon's ex-wife was missing, she was frightened and hurriedly left. Who knew that Sung-hoon followed her all the way? So she hid in the tunnel entrance and stunned Sung-hoon and escaped. She didn't dare to go to work in the hospital afterward. Sung-hoon was very angry at Mi-eun's testimony. He told the police Mi-eun to cover up her crime of stealing drugs. So she accused him of murder. But the police found the syringe and isopropyl at Sung-hoon's residence. Plus, there were pinholes on Sung-hoon's arm. The fact that Sung-hoon took drugs was beyond doubt. The police did find a woman's head in the refrigerator. The victim's name is Bae Young-ya. The police found a headless female body in Han River last month. They can't identify her identity because her fingerprint was cut off. The head in Sung Hoon's refrigerator was of the headless corpse. And the tattooed man who was stabbed by Sung Hoon was the man giving loans. According to the tattooed man, he gave loans to Sung Hoon. But with the poor conditions of Sung Hoon Hospital, interest was always delayed. He had insomnia and often needed propofol to hypnotize. So Sung Hoon's hospital took injections to offset the interest. But one day, he couldn't contact Sung Hoon anymore. On the second day, the tattooed man found a car with a body in the hospital parking lot. And the car's recorder just captured the scene of Sung Hoon transporting the corpse. Sung Hoon told him at that time that Bae Young Ya died of medication. He wanted to use this as a threat to demand compensation. He didn't expect Sung Hoon to close down the hospital and run away. 3 months later he found Sung Hoon's current residence. The so-called Officer Joe was actually imagined by Sung Hoon. Na Min-soo that he met in a car crash that day was a psychiatrist who gave him a psychological diagnosis and treatment. Na Min-soo didn't expect Sung Hoon to be so seriously ill. He speculated that he must have pretended to die in the hospital. Sung Hoon became addicted to drugs under tremendous mental pressure. Then schizophrenia became more severe. Sung Hoon did not deny the fact that the body was thrown away by him. But he yelled that he didn't kill his ex-wife. He made a claim that he fell into an invulnerable trap. But the currency side was only his madness. They let the doctor give him a sedative. However, Sung Hoon's words were not all fantasy. The landlord's ex-wife did not die but ran back to the Philippines. But Mi-eun did steal the medicine. And she lied against Sung Hoon. After Sung Hoon was arrested, she continued to steal medicines and increase the price. Afterward, surveillance probes were installed in the area where the landlord lived. The landlord quietly reminded his father that they had surveillance. He had to be careful in the future. The landlord was the real culprit in the serial murder 15 years ago. His addiction to corpses made his son his accomplice. Sung Hoon's ex-wife came to the car that night just after leaving. She was killed by the old man. Seeing that his father was sick again, the son could only help with the dead body. The landlord seemed to be suspicious of Sung Hoon's knowing this. So Sung Hoon was invited down for a drink that night. After Sung Hoon was drunk, he put the blood-stained knife in his residence. Completed seamless planting. The serial homicide case would also continue. The film is simply a story of one mental illness backing up another mental illness. Well, this movie ends here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, see you next time.